Join in remembrance of George Edward Foreman, an American professional boxer, novelist, entrepreneur, and clergyman who lived from January 10, 1949, until March 21, 2025. In this video, we will look at his vast net worth, his personal life, and his children. We will take an in-depth look into his illustrious career, his illness, and the cause of death. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Let's get right into it. Known as Big George, and was a boxer from 1967 to 1997. He won an Olympic gold medal and was a two-time world heavyweight champion. He was well known as an entrepreneur for the George Foreman Grill. He had a whopping $300 million net worth and several luxury houses and cars in his garage. Following a difficult upbringing, Foreman began boxing as an amateur and went on to win a gold medal in the heavyweight class in the 1968 Summer Olympics. He became a professional the next year and upset then-unbeaten Joe Frazier in the second round to win the world heavyweight title in 1973. Before losing to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle in 1974, he had already defended the title twice. After losing to Jimmy Young in 1977, Foreman was unable to win another belt and retired. Foreman became an ordained Christian preacher after what he called a born-again experience. He declared a return 10 years later, defeating 26-year-old Michael Moorer to win the unified WBA, IBF, and lineal heavyweight belts in 1994 at the age of 45. Soon after, Foreman gave up the WBA championship instead of defending his obligatory title, and on June 28, 1995, he also gave up the IBF title after one successful title defense against Axel Schultz. He was the world's oldest heavyweight champion, standing at 46 years and 169 days. After Bernard Hopkins, at light heavyweight, Foreman was the second oldest boxer in any weight class and the oldest to ever win the world heavyweight boxing title of major honors. With a final record of 76 victories, 68 knockouts, and 5 defeats, he retired in 1997 at the age of 48. One of his most notable defeats came at the hands of Muhammad Ali, who delivered the fastest punch Foreman had ever seen, a lightning-fast 1-2 combination. Both the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame have inducted Foreman. Foreman is ranked as the 8th greatest heavyweight of all time by the International Boxing Research Organization. He was listed by The Ring in 2002 as one of the top 25 boxers of the previous 8 decades. He was named the 9th greatest puncher of all time by The Ring. Up until 2004, he worked for 12 years as a ringside analyst for HBO's boxing program. Outside of boxing, Foreman was a prosperous businessman who gained notoriety for promoting the George Foreman Grill, which has sold over 100 million units globally. He received $138 million for the grill's commercial rights in 1999. Early life. The birthplace of George Foreman is Marshall, Texas. He was raised with 6 siblings in Houston, Texas's 5th Ward. Leroy Moorhead was George's real father, but he was raised by Jay Foreman, whom his mother had married when George was a young boy. George acknowledged in his memoirs that he was a disturbed young man. After quitting school at the age of 15, he worked as a mugger for a while. After viewing an advertisement for the Corps on television, Foreman changed his mind at the age of 16 and persuaded his mother to enroll him in the Job Corps. Foreman obtained his GED and received training to become a carpenter and bricklayer as part of the Job Corps. With the assistance of a supervisor, he relocated to Pleasanton, California, and started training. Foreman gave up football for boxing, but he still had an interest in it and looked up to Jim Brown. Personal life. Mary Joan Martelli was Foreman's wife from 1985 till his passing. Adrian Calhoun, 1971 to 1974. Cynthia Lewis, 1977 to 1979, Sharon Goodson, 1981 to 1982, and Andrea Skeet, 1982 to 1985, were his first 4 spouses. From 1985 till his death, Foreman was wed to Mary Joan Martelli. Foreman had 7 daughters and 5 boys, totaling 12 children. He has 5 sons: George III, Monk; George IV, Big Wheel; George V, Red; George VI, Little Joey; and George Jr. Foreman writes on his website, I wanted all of my boys to have something in common, so I called them George Edward Foreman. George III followed in his father's footsteps by becoming a boxer and businessman. George IV made an appearance and finished 8th in the second season of the reality TV show American Grit. Natalia, Leola, Frida, Michi, Georgetta, Isabella, and Courtney are his 7 daughters. His marriage to Mary Joan Martelli produced Natalia and Leola. Michi, Georgetta, and Frida were his daughters from different relationships. In 2009 and 2012, he adopted 2 daughters, Courtney Isaac Foreman and Isabella Brandy Lelia Foreman. Frida was a professional boxer with a 5-1 record. He resigned in 2001 and died in an apparent suicide in 2019 at the age of 42. Living in Sweden, Isabella Foreman has been blogging under the moniker Bella Nutella since 2010. During its 95th National Convention in 2013, the American Legion presented Foreman with the James V. Day Good Guy Award in appreciation of his community work and patriotism. Professional career. After knocking out Donald Walheim in 3 rounds in New York City in 1969, Foreman became a professional fighter. He won all 13 of his fights that year, including 11 by knockout. Foreman won all 12 of his fights, 11 by knockout, in 1970, continuing his ascent to the undisputed heavyweight crown. Gregorio Peralta was one of his opponents, whom he defeated via decision at Madison Square Garden, despite Peralta demonstrating that Foreman was susceptible to quick counterpunches combined with a forceful boxing technique. After that, Foreman won 3 rounds by technical knockout, TKO, against George Chuvalo. Following this victory, Foreman defeated Boone Kirkman in 3 rounds and Charlie Polite in 4. Including a rematch with Peralta, whom he knocked out in the 10th and final round in Oakland, California, and a victory against Leroy Caldwell, whom he knocked out in the 2nd round. Foreman won 7 additional fights in 1971, all of which were knockouts. The World Boxing Association and World Boxing Council named him as the top challenger after he accumulated a 32-0, 29 KO record. Foreman, who remained unbeaten and had a stellar knockout record, was scheduled to face unbeaten and undisputed world heavyweight champion Joe Frazier in 1972. Frazier had won the title from Jimmy Ellis and had defended it 4 times since, including a unanimous decision in 15 rounds over the unbeaten Ali in 1971 after Ali had defeated Oscar Bonavena and Jerry Corey. Frazier had boycotted a title elimination brought on by the vacancy created by the championship being taken away from Muhammad Ali. Foreman was a 3-1 underdog heading into the bout and was not predicted to defeat Frazier despite his superior size and reach. George Foreman's early reign as heavyweight champion showcased his devastating power, beginning with a swift first title defense against Jose Roman in Tokyo, 1973, where he scored a 2-minute knockout, one of the fastest in heavyweight title history. His next defense in 1974 against Ken Norton, a future Hall of Famer who had previously defeated Muhammad Ali, proved more challenging but equally dominant. Foreman overwhelmed Norton's famed defense in Caracas, Venezuela, dropping him twice in the 2nd round before the referee stopped the fight. These victories extended Foreman's undefeated record to 40-0, 37 KOs, cementing his reputation as a fearsome champion. George Foreman's career after his iconic 1974 Rumble in the Jungle loss to Muhammad Ali, where Ali's rope-a-dope strategy exhausted Foreman, leading to an 8th-round KO, saw dramatic highs and lows. A poorly received 1975 exhibition, Foreman vs. 5, backfired as crowds jeered his dominance over Journeyman and taunted him with chants of Ali. His 1976 comeback began violently with a brutal 5th-round KO of Ron Lyle in a slugfest dubbed the Ring Fight of the Year, followed by a decisive TKO rematch victory over Joe Frazier. However, 1977 marked a turning point. A disciplined Jimmy Young outboxed Foreman, handing him a unanimous decision loss that prompted Foreman's temporary retirement and spiritual transformation, setting the stage for his legendary 1990s comeback. Retirement. After the fight, Foreman fell unwell in his dressing room. He claimed to have had a near-death experience and was experiencing heat stroke and fatigue. He described feeling as though he was near death and being in a terrible, terrifying world of emptiness and misery. He started pleading with God for assistance, even though he was not yet devout. He clarified that he felt a call from God to alter his life and behavior. When he stated, "I don't care if this is death, I still believe there is a God." Following this encounter, Foreman converted to Christianity and devoted the following 10 years of his life to serving God. Despite not officially retiring from boxing, Foreman gave up the sport and became a licensed preacher. He began preaching on the streets before moving to Houston to serve as the pastor of the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ, where he dedicated his life to his congregation and family. Additionally, he established a youth facility that is named after him. Foreman keeps talking about his experience on Christian TV shows like Trinity Broadcasting Network and the 700 Club. After a decade-long absence, George Foreman shocked the boxing world in 1987 by announcing his comeback at age 38. He cited raising funds for his youth center and a desire to fight Mike Tyson as primary motivations. His return began in Sacramento, California, with a fourth-round knockout of Steve Zuski. Despite initial concerns about his fitness and weight, Foreman insisted he aimed to demonstrate that age shouldn't limit one's aspirations. He proceeded to win 4 more fights in 1987, steadily improving his conditioning. In 1988, he secured 9 victories, notably a 7th-round knockout of former champion Dwight Muhammad Qawi. In 1987, after a decade-long hiatus, 38-year-old George Foreman returned to boxing, driven by a desire to fund his youth center and a potential fight with Mike Tyson. Despite initial concerns about his weight and fitness, Foreman won his first fight against Steve Zuski and continued with a string of victories. He demonstrated improved stamina and a relaxed fighting style, winning 9 fights in 1988, including a knockout of Dwight Muhammad Qawi. 2 by 1989, Foreman's public image shifted, becoming a cheerful and self-deprecating celebrity, boosted by endorsements like the George Foreman Grill. He continued his winning streak, notably defeating Burt Cooper. In 1990, Foreman defeated Jerry Cooney, showcasing his enduring power. He then challenged Evander Holyfield for the undisputed heavyweight title in 1991, losing on points but surprising many with his stamina. In 1992, he controversially defeated Alex Stewart. In 1993, he lost to Tommy Morrison in a WBO title fight. Foreman also briefly starred in the sitcom George during this period. In 1994, at age 45, Foreman achieved a historic comeback by knocking out Michael Moore to reclaim the IBF and WBA titles, becoming the oldest heavyweight champion. His victory broke multiple records, including the longest interval between title reigns. He later refused to fight Tony Tucker and was stripped of the WBA title. He then controversially defeated Axel Schultz, leading to him being stripped of the IBF title as well. Following his title reign, Foreman continued to fight, defeating Crawford Grimsley and Lou Savarese. In 1997, he lost a controversial decision to Shannon Briggs, which marked his final fight. He retired from boxing and became a respected analyst for HBO. Though he considered a comeback fight against Larry Holmes in 1999, the bout was cancelled. Foreman later declined another comeback in 2004. After a near-death experience in 1977, Foreman became a born-again Christian and eventually a pastor. He established the George Foreman Youth and Community Center, dedicating himself to ministry and community service. Foreman emphasized the importance of faith and serving God, leading church services, and studying the Bible. Illness and cause of death. The absence of a disclosed cause of death and related illness suggests that the family may have chosen to keep this information private, a common practice in celebrity deaths to respect personal wishes. Given Foreman's age, 76, and history as a boxer, potential health issues could include cardiovascular problems or neurological conditions, but these are speculative without official confirmation. The family statement, as reported, focused on his legacy and character, possibly indicating a desire to remember him for his contributions rather than his final days. While the cause of death remains undisclosed, efforts were made to identify any reported illnesses, particularly those that might have contributed to his passing. Historical accounts reveal a significant health event in 1977, following a boxing match with Jimmy Young, where Foreman experienced a near-death episode, as detailed in a movie guide article. He described feeling like he was dying and subsequently became a born-again Christian, but this event was not linked to his recent death and occurred nearly 5 decades prior. That's it about the champ. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Share with your family and friends. Subscribe and click on that bell notification.